Bakugan is one of my favorite trading card games from my early childhood. The show originally aired in the late 2000s on Cartoon Network. Because of the IP's early success, there were multiple spin-off shows and games released. Bakugan Defenders of the Core is one such game. Previously, I've gone through the Bakugan Battle Brawlers game with Nuzlocke, Ultra Nuzlocke, and then finally Doom card rules and play. Check those videos out after this if you are interested. This game, I want to do something equally challenging. Can I beat Bakugan Defenders of the Core with no upgrades and no hologram towers? This will be interesting to say the least. Before we dive into the challenge, let me explain the rules first. No upgrades. Upgrades for Bakugan can include things such as increasing damage of range attacks, increased health, more damage from ability cards, and so on. Not being able to use these is going to massively hinder our Bakugan. No hologram towers. What the heck are hologram towers? I'll be talking about this more in a few minutes when I explain the basics in the game. I want to mention it here. Essentially, it distracts opponents from the landmark you are supposed to protect. With us being able to use none, there's very little holding enemies back. Ability cards are allowed. These can be collected around the map, will give the player access to new attacks and abilities. These can be changed on the fly. This will be one of the few saving graces in this run. Must beat the game. Bakugan Defenders of the Core has many missions, levels to complete, whether it's sneaking past Vexo's security to defeating the main roster of bad guys. You'll have to conquer them all. Glitches and or exploits are allowed, so expect some interesting ways to take down enemies and get past levels. Bakugan, Yu-Gi-Oh!, Chaotic, Magic the Gathering, and many other trading card games I've enjoyed since I was a young kid. Since then, I want to return to some of these games doing challenges on them. This is the first Defenders of the Core challenge on the channel. Let me know if you'd like to see more runs completed on this game. Make sure to hit the like button, comment, and subscribe for more content. Grab some snacks or popcorn. Now let's get into the no upgrades and hologram towers playthrough. First things first, let me explain the game for those who are unfamiliar or are in need of a refresher. This was certainly the case for me, which is why I did a prep playthrough before to refamiliarize myself with the game. Check that out if you are interested. I'll talk about this as the intro cutscene and some of the battles play out. Bakugan Battle Brawlers and the Defenders of the Core gameplay significantly differ from one another. Battle Brawlers focus more on outwitting your opponents with G power-ups, roaming the battlefield for crystal bonuses, engaging in minigames, and so on. Essentially, it's what you'd expect from a trading card game. Defenders of the Core instead takes the battle minigames and makes them much more interactive, alongside a few other things to do in the game. Bakugan can be Pyrus, aka like fire, or Ventus for wind. Each has their own pros and cons, such as strengths and weaknesses versus Bakugan, alongside whichever map is being battled on. Battles are throughout the game. This could be 1v1, 1v2, or 1v3 plus battles. How do Bakugan fight? There are combos that can be executed, range attacks which help to continually damage enemies. These can be charged to destroy an opponent's shield, and then ability cards for increased damage or defensive auras. The combos I was expecting a little bit more from, as there are less than a handful in total. Makes sense with it being a game for younger audiences alongside Wii console restrictions, but it is unfortunate to say the least. Attacks can be blocked and even parried. Because of this and a few other things, this game surprisingly has many layers of mechanics for the player to get better and better. Regarding this challenge, we will be using no upgrades and hologram towers. I'll showcase a few examples from the prep playthrough I did before this challenge. Upgrades are extremely powerful, and since each character's kit is different, any upgrade is better than nothing. Drago had some really powerful options that made him a beast in the arena. With none of them being allowed, we are going to be massively hindered. Hologram towers can be infused with any attribute. Chaos, Darkest, Pyrus, etc. This would allow you to counter whichever the opponent's Bakugan were. What do I mean by counter? These towers will take an opponent's aggro, and if the correct attribute is selected, it will take longer for them to destroy that tower. That's just half of the benefits. Biggest one, I think, is that it heals the player's Bakugan while they're standing in it. Now, I'm sure there are a few of you who are like, that doesn't seem like that's all that tough, especially if it's a children's card game. But I'll just say that this was the hardest Bakugan challenge yet. The last thing I'll mention are the crystals. The crystals, you could compare them to the landmarks. If all of them are broken, then the opponent loses. If the landmarks break, we lose the match. In some cases, these crystals will endlessly spawn Bakugan in. Because of that, I'm going to have to manage my resources, time, and attention throughout the run. These are just some of the many gameplay features that I wanted to mention. Gate cards, power-ups, etc. will be talked about throughout the run. Once our main character reaches Shadow, Dan, and Marucho, Bakugan clash in combat. Dan and Marucho have lost their brawler abilities from the crystals. Not even going to try to rationalize or explain that. Sure, I'll be talking about how strange the dialogue and the story is later in the video. With the tutorial training wheels off, I was interested to see how these first few matches would fare. That first fight was a piece of cake. The trap Bakugan were in this stage, so it's pretty easy. Then everything switched with the second and third fights. Opponents would use stronger Bakugan, alongside me having to defend a landmark. These are points of interest around the map that the player has to protect. If not, the mission will be failed. I think you can start to see how no holograms will be a problem later on. Even so, the AI difficulty right now is not in hard mode, so I fortunately was able to get past these initial encounters. In between each fight, the player has to engage with carefully navigating past Vexo security, whether it's robots, cameras, or guards. Ability cards and statues for Bakugan can be collected in boxes scattered around the map. Same goes for core energy. Because we cannot upgrade or use hologram towers, core energy is useless in this run. Same goes for the statues, but some of them do look kind of silent, so it's kind of cool. Ability cards, on the other hand, will be excellent. I think for this video, I'll be doing something a bit differently to what I usually do. Most of the time, I will talk about the challenge and story side by side. For this entry, I plan to focus entirely from here on out on the gameplay. I guess it's a good time to rant. Defenders of the Core is a fun game, but its story is just not my cup of tea. I don't entirely dislike it. I do see what it's going for. For me, it boils down to everyone but the player not being able to brawl, so they become sideline cheerleaders constantly in battle stances. Then we have to save a Bakugan or ally of the resistance from some bad guy, and then, rinse and repeat like 15 times. I think the fighting gameplay is the strongest aspect of this game, and the most interesting. Because that, I will mention a few things from the story, but won't be going in depth. Once again, I don't dislike the game. I think its story is very similar to how wacky and weird the original Battle Brawlers Wii game was. Like when I watched the original Yu-Gi-Oh series, I enjoyed the major plot points and such, but man, hearing Taya give like the 500th friendship speech is just not enjoyable. But I digress. If you're interested in seeing all the cutscenes, or more of the story, head over to the VOD channel. Here I post streams and challenges that I complete. Whether it's this challenge, KOTOR 2 Melee Only, Elden Ring No Deaths, and beyond, you can find it all there. If you'd like to support the channel further, become a member to get early access to new KOTOR videos alongside some other benefits. Thank you guys for being awesome. Now, let's get back into no upgrades in the Hologram Towers run. The first stream for this challenge went really well. Everything was going smoothly. Didn't have much trouble with enemies, and found myself getting power-ups often. The damage boost one was excellent at quickly taking down enemies. Most of these are acquired when buildings or larger objects are destroyed around the map. Drago, and later Percival were the characters I found myself to be the best at. But wasn't the best was the final battle of the first stream. This is the point in the game where multiple waves of enemies are going to attack the landmark, alongside stronger Bakugan coming into battle. With more enemies in these levels, having no hologram towers to reduce damage makes me have to work that much harder. Hades was the biggest obstacle since his laser beams just do insane damage. Enemies more times than not will go straight for the landmark rather than fight me, so it's a juggling game. There was a downside to using Drago, which was the abundant amount of water everywhere. I found his flight to be way more useful to quickly engage enemies or get to the other side of the map. Fortunately, I was able to get past, but man, this was just a taste of what was to come later on. Around this point is when we were given access to evolved Bakugan, Cross Dragonoid being the first. The evolved versions will have new ability cards and better stats than before. In the early stages of the game, I was able to get past each fight pretty much in the first go. Maybe a second or third would be needed, but generally they were pretty straightforward. From here on out, each of these took multiple attempts to complete. I think the level where the team goes to Egypt was a perfect example of the aforementioned things. Straight away, there are two landmarks the player has to protect. Usually there is a hologram tower in front of both of them, taking incoming damage and aggro, but we don't have access to that in this run. Instead, Bakugan beeline it for the landmarks, so I'm forced to take them out. Oh, what's that? I defeated Bakugan? Well, the crystals are just gonna respawn more. This is the first wave, not even mentioning the rest to come. I often found that they would get one of the landmarks nearly destroyed, and then by the second wave, it was gone near instantly. I went through these fights trying different characters, playstyles, and hoping to get some better RNG. Most proved to be fruitless. Drago, on the other hand, still proved he was the GOAT. His charge attack was great at knocking enemies back while getting high damage. It helped that it could pierce through targets. Even so, it was never enough by the second wave. Their high damage, increased numbers, proved to be too daunting of a task it seemed. This is when I really started to question the run. Is this going to be possible? This is us maybe at like half to 2/3 of the way through the game, with things only getting harder. How much more challenging is it going to get? Is it going to be so difficult that it's impossible? Well, these were all things floating around in my mind. I was ready to save this fight for the next stream, but then I got this match. Emus was strangely a great choice in this matchup, and the Bakugan that ended up getting me the win. Let me explain. Initially, the biggest obstacle is destroying the crystal before the enemies can get enough damage on the landmarks. Emus is proficient at range attacks, is easily able to take down the crystals from afar, as getting over there and back takes a lot of extra time. It helped that the Bakugan watched me do this instead of just going for the landmark. With myself and the landmarks having more health than any attempt previously, I was hungry for the win. In the second wave, the incorrigible Bakugan relentlessly hunted for the landmarks once again. With skill and a bit of luck, I was able to get past this level. That was brutal. Looking back on the run, it wasn't even the hardest battle. Still, it felt really good to get past it in the moment. This is when our character battles Spectra and eventually loses to Maxis Helios. The only thing I'll say about this encounter was that the AI was very obviously set to hard mode. Pretty sure from here onwards they are all on hard difficulty. These next few cutscenes I just have to let play.
So powerful.
Mira? Mira, what are you doing?
Bargain. You agreed to go back to being my brother once you had Drago.
Brother?
Drago is finally mine. With Drago, I can open a portal to the core and become the most powerful being in the universe.
Keith, what about our deal?
Poor Mira. You were always so naive.
Wait, Keith, wait! Oh!
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
My long-lost brother, Keith. So I found a way to contact him, and he admitted the truth. He said he would quit the Vexos if I gave him Drago. I'm so sorry, you guys.
Mira, thanks for telling us the truth.
Right. It's Spectra who's the bad guy here. That's right.
Mira, don't blame yourself for Spectra's lies.
Mira!
Yeah, this story is interesting to say the least. I've been wanting to do another review soon, so maybe if you guys would like to hear more of my opinions rather than me discussing the challenge, let me know down below. The next two fights were fairly straightforward, though they definitely had their tough moments. Both were really fun fights. Battling next to a large pyramid and sphinx, and duking out in the streets of New York City. These levels are action-packed. This is when I got to this one level that I don't think I'll ever forget for years and years.
No. Wait. Wait.
I think this level in particular really goes to show how upgrades and hologram towers are almost necessary for the win, at least the towers. Why was this level harder than any other ones? It was for a few reasons. Two of the main enemy Bakugans are cast in the first wave, then respawn in the second with another ally. Yeah, you heard me right, they can just respawn. It'd be like if after Marduk lost in the finals of the first game, he was like, that was just a warm-up, and proceeded to do a whole nother round of battles. I swear there's one level in this game that has at least like one Bakugan respawn 3 times, but I may be misremembering. I know there's one instance where, it's twice at least. Either way, it just means much more trouble for me. Then we have an extremely small arena with absolutely no cover or buildings besides the landmark, or crystal towers that consistently shoot at the player, and opponents' Bakugan being highly upgraded. It's not even mentioning that enemies will randomly have every ability card ready to use at the beginning of a level. I've done pretty much an entire stream on just this one section. I can't stress enough how challenging this was. Funnily enough, this reminded me about the first time I soloed Millennia with no hits when Elden Ring initially released. Back then I was at uni, I started getting into challenges and really investing into the game. I guess that's why in combining my Night Rain and base game Elden Ring hours, I have like well over 2,500 hours. That's not even like an exaggeration. One day I decided I want to get good enough for doing a hitless run boss fight against her, so I practice, and practice. Minutes turned to hours, hours turned to days, days turned to weeks. Eventually though, I was able to get it, and throughout the 30 plus challenges I've completed on that game, gone back to do it again and again. My point is not to relish in that accomplishment, rather to showcase the perseverance and determination needed for some games or challenges. This game was similar. The feeling of being an underdog was one of the many reasons I enjoyed doing these challenges, since at the end of the day, most of these challenges I would have to use suboptimal builds. There are exceptions of course, but the pistol only challenges would be a great example. Ultimately, I was able to get this attempt. I have to just let it play out since it was both skill and luck all in one. I literally jumped out of my chair when I took Hades down a second time. That was super satisfying. We're now in the final stretch of the game, entering the Vexos base, and then defeating Spectra. As this is going on, let me reflect and analyze the run as a whole. Bakugan Defenders of the Core is one fun game to play, taking the Bakugan world and combining it with fighting game mechanics, made for an enjoyable time now and back when I was a kid. Is it possible to beat this game with no upgrades and hologram towers? Yes, but it is extremely arduous. I think the Egyptian map with the two landmarks, then later the USA fight were great examples of this. Upgrading and hologram towers each have their own place in this game, more often than not, felt almost necessary to use. Fortunately, through skill and a bit of luck, I was able to beat the game using no upgrades or towers. I used to play MKX, MK11, and then Jump Force, which may or may not have helped. Gosh, I remember getting that sweet skin for Scorpion when it first released, and it was so fun playing PvP in that game. That's a whole nother conversation. I find it fascinating how this game, when a few restrictions are applied, it almost feels like an entirely different game, compared to Battle Brawlers where there were multiple ways to circumvent the hindrances, whether that was crystal bonuses, ability cards, etc. What's cool to find and collect ability cards throughout the game, the whole sneaking past Vexos felt like it was just a pad out the time. The battles were the best part of this game. They are a bit repetitive at times, it's just so fun to see Bakugan duke it out in combat. I often had to switch playstyles throughout this challenge. I would spam enemies from afar to then dash in for slashes and everything else in between. Now, do I recommend trying this challenge for those who own the game? Yeah, I would. It's fun, challenging, and most importantly, it was rewarding. Some instances were pretty RNG dependent, but for a vast majority of this run, it relied on strategic positioning and knowing when to use range attacks versus melee. With Spectra defeated, the team rushes in to get out before they are toast. This has been Bakugan Defenders at the core, with no upgrades in hologram towers. Let me know down below if you'd like to see more challenges on this game, or if I should return to Battle Brawlers, the first game. Maybe an inverse run. If I'm in the Chaos Arena, I must use the Darkest Bakugan, Pyrus, I must use Aquos, and so on. An idea to say the least. Last month, I posted and completed the KOTOR Force Power series. That was epic and very fun to go through. Glad to see everyone enjoying it, and seeing the supportive comments. After next week's challenge, which I'm debating on which one to do, I think most likely I'll do the BO2 Pistols Only challenge. I might do the Assassin's Creed one also, so we'll see. All I'll say is, man, that was the toughest KOTOR run so far, so be on the lookout for that. Recently, I started channel memberships on this channel. If you'd like to see the KOTOR videos early, alongside access to some other perks, become a member now. Made it the lowest possible amount, so that'd be worthwhile for you, the viewer. Soon I plan to make a Patreon and then some sweet merch. I really don't like many sponsors, as most just don't help the average person, so I don't want to bombard you guys like some other YouTubers. That being said, if you would like to support me further, become a member. Thank you for watching the video. Make sure to hit the like button, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already. This greatly helps to support me in the channel, alongside pushing the video to others who may be interested. If I do something kind for someone today, whether it's a small or large gesture, this is your boy Skilled Fawn, and I'm out.